you have something with Ngannou that if he has any card to play with Dana, it's the fact that Dana, I think anyway, has been waiting patiently for the mega fight of the decade. He's been waiting 2 years for John Jones to get his weight up, and he wants that Ngannou-John Jones fight. So I don't think he's going to let Ngannou go.
John Jones, are they even in the same weight class?
Oh, yeah, they are. They are. John Jones has gotten to be a heavyweight, and he's big, and he's got that light heavyweight mentality, meaning the fact that he can fight in many different ways. He can wrestle. He can do jiu-jitsu.
Who would be favored in that fight?
I mean,
you're talking about arguably the #1 UFC fighter in history.
I think
Jones,
the question is ring rust a real thing? Is ring rust a real thing?
Yeah, ring rust is a real thing. It is a real thing, and but it also depends on like who you are as a fighter. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes people go out there and they exhibit that kind of ring rust, but I mean, when you're out for so long, the game changes like that in subtle ways that if you're not in there, you don't even realize, because there's so much that goes into being able to fight. You know, it's more mental than it is physical when it gets down to, fight week and being in the cage on fight day. So you have to be able to, bring yourself there a little bit every single day and stay on top of the mental game. If you don't stay on top of the mental game, then when you get out there, you can go out there and experience some ring rust.
So you think somebody like John Jones, even maybe the single best fighter of all time, 2 years out of the ring, he's going to get that adrenaline dump, the ring rust, and then you have somebody like Ngannou in there. It's recipe for disaster. Or do you think John Jones is just so good?
John Jones is so good, but there's something different about John Jones. Like John Jones, one thing that I really like about John Jones, and I hold high praises for him is because of the fact that, his life could be falling apart around a fight, but yet when he's in the cage, he's laser and focused and he's locked in. That right there is a talent that a lot of people can't do. For me, I had a hard time juggling life outside and then getting inside the cage and not letting it affect my performance. So being able to do that is an art form in itself. And John Jones has been able to, he's exhibited that time and time again. So it's hard to say if John Jones is going to go and fall for it and, go and have the ring rust that you will anticipate anybody else being out as long as he has been.
Who do you think will win if these guys face each other?
Man, it's a tough one to call, to be honest. And I'm not just trying to say that to try to give a 50-50 answer, but, you have Francis, who is, has been a sponge, training with Francis and seeing Francis' growth from the time he started to where he is now. It's hard to say that he can't do all those things that a mixed martial arts fighters can do. Before it was like he only had the big power. Well, now he can grapple. Now he can wrestle. Now he can defend takedowns. Now he has a better understanding of where the fight needs to be and how to get a guy to end his fight, And then you have John Jones at the aspect, who understands a great flow of a fight, has great defense, and at the same time, he's just very smart inside the cage. So it's a very tough one to call. But, I mean, here's the thing that I think about when I think about this matchup is that, when John Jones was at, 205, his last few fights, he was getting caught with some punches, and it was making him look a little bit more human. So I would say if he goes up to heavyweight and he doesn't patch up those holes, then he can get caught with a big shot and
peak of John Jones versus Francis. Is it even? I'm talking peak when John was peaking. Where
you were in the ring with him when he was peaking.
Yeah. John Jones is something special when he was peaking. I mean, to fight how John Jones used to fight, and back then it was ridiculous because he was so creative inside the octagon, and he had no fear. So when you don't have any fear and you have that creativity, you're looking at somebody who was just absolutely dynamic, and then his athleticism and his range and everything else that he had. So I would say John Jones. People, they don't want to give John Jones his credit because of the things that he's done and things like that. But when you look at the talent, just of what he's been able to do, I mean, you got to give it to him because he's working with a different set of skills when it comes to physically speaking.
Guy was using his elbow as a jab.
Well, that's his only loss. His only loss is that elbow to the forehead, right? I mean, where they stopped him, he's like, oh my gosh, I didn't know you can't do this. It was just like natural to him to lay it on the guy.
So if you enjoyed this little short segment from the podcast that we did, here's another short segment to watch. Or if you want to see the entire podcast, click over here. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.